the children of Israel were fruitful, the land was filled with them. But then there arose a new king over Egypt, and he said, the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal wisely, lest they multiply and join against us. So he set taskmasters over them. They made the children of Israel serve bitterly in hard bondage in the field, making brick. But still they multiplied. So Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, these Hebrews shall find no ease. Never shall the soles of their feet have rest. In the morning they shall say, would God it were night, and at night they shall say, would God it were morning. The sword without and terror within shall destroy them, and the heart of Israel shall be cast down. Now therefore destroy every male among their little ones. Every son that is born you shall cast into the river, that I may lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. But now God cast into Egypt the seed of a man. Jochebed, wife of Amram, conceived and bore a son. He was a goodly child. When she saw him, she said, he shall live. And she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she made for him a basket of bulrushes, and daubed it with pitch, and put the child there inside. And she laid the basket in the reeds by the river's edge, and his sister hid nearby to see what would be done to him. Now the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the river with her maidens. She walked by the water, and when she saw the basket among the reeds, she sent her maid to fetch it. When she'd opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had pity on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. She said, I will take this child. He shall be my son, and a prince over all men. And because I drew him out of the water, his name shall be called Moses. When Moses was grown, and he was very humble, he went out of the city to his brethren. And when he saw an Egyptian striking one of the Hebrews, Moses' anger waxed hot. He lifted his hand and slew the Egyptian. And Moses said, surely, when this thing is known, Pharaoh will slay me. So Moses fled from the wrath of Egypt, and came at last to the land of Midian, and dwelt there, and kept the flocks of Jethro. And Jethro gave Moses his daughter, and she bore him a son. And Moses was content. He said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. But in Egypt, the children of Israel cried in their bondage, and their cry came up to God, and God heard them and remembered. So in the desert of Midian, where Moses kept his flocks, he came to the mountain of God, called Sinai, and he looked and beheld a bush that burned with fire. But the bush was not consumed. And he said, I will turn aside and see this great sight. But when he'd climbed to the place, God called to him out of the midst of the fire, Moses, Moses. And he said, I am here. And the voice said, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. I am the God of thy fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and heard their cries, for I know their sorrows. Therefore will I send thee, Moses, and thou shalt bring forth my people to serve me upon this mountain. And Moses said, who am I, Lord, that I should go to bring Israel out of bondage? Behold, when I come unto the people and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me, they will not believe me. And God said, they will believe thee. Now therefore go, and I will be with thee. Moses went and returned into Egypt with his wife and his sons and the staff of God in his hand. And with his brother Aaron he went in unto Pharaoh and told him, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Let my people go.
Let my people go.
And Pharaoh said, Who is this God that I should obey his voice? I know not thy God, neither will I let Israel go. And Moses and Aaron came forth from Pharaoh, and Moses said in his heart, Lord, why hast thou sent me in thy name? But the Lord spoke again to Moses, saying, I will make thee as a god to Pharaoh. Go again to him. You shall multiply my wonders in the land, and in this shall they know that I am the Lord. And Moses did as the Lord commanded. He lifted up his staff in the sight of Pharaoh and struck the waters, and all the river turned to blood. Throughout all the land of Egypt, the waters turned to blood. But the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he hearkened not. So Moses smote the dust of the earth with his staff, and the dust became lice. Then there came swarms of flies, the land stank, and the cattle died. Pharaoh's magicians could do nothing. The people were stricken with sores, save only the children of Israel. And the ministers of Pharaoh said, This is the finger of God. But Pharaoh would not listen. He drove Moses and Aaron from his presence. Then did Moses stretch forth his hand to heaven, and the Lord rained hail upon the earth. Fire ran along the ground, and there was a thick darkness over all the land for 3 days. And Pharaoh's ministers cried to him, How long shall this man be honest? Let them go, that they may serve their God. Knowest thou not yet that Egypt is destroyed? Then Pharaoh called for Moses and said, Take away from me this death. And Moses spread his hands, and the thunders ceased. And he said, Thus saith the Lord of Israel, Let my people go. And Pharaoh said, Get thee from me. And Moses said, Then must I bring one more plague upon Egypt. About midnight will the Lord smite your firstborn, and against the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue. Pharaoh said in great anger, Take heed, you see my face no more, for on the day you see my face again, you shall surely die. And Moses said, Thou hast spoken well. I will see thy face no more. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel, and said to them, This day shall be the beginning for you. Make ready to eat in haste this night of unleavened bread and lamb, and let each man take of the blood of the lamb and mark the door of his house. For tonight will the Lord smite the Egyptians, and when he sees the mark upon your doors, he will pass over your house. And this day shall ye remember forever. And it came to pass at midnight, as Moses said, all the firstborn of Egypt was struck. There was not a house where there was not one dead. And a great cry rose up, We be all dead men. And Pharaoh rose up in the night and called from his throne, Get ye forth from among my people. Go serve your God and be gone. And Moses said, We will go, with our young and with our old, with our sons and with our daughters, with our flocks and with our herds will we go. We have seen this day that God liveth.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me.
And the children of Israel did go out of Egypt in a mixed multitude on foot with their flocks and herds. And Moses said, Who is like unto thee, O Lord? Thou hast borne us out of Egypt as an eagle bears his young upon his wings. And unto the people he said, Hear, O Israel! Remember this day when the strong hand of the Lord brings you out of bondage.
Come and go with